Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, continuing with our readings on modesty, there's a chapter in the Samyutta Nikaya on gain and honor, and it contains some of the Buddha's most scathing. He really uses his rhetorical skills to take something which seems good and pleasant and try to convince us that it's not. And so I'll read 4 different suttas here, but there's about 20, 25 or 30 in all. The first one is, so this is Samyutta Nikaya 17.5, the dung beetle. At Savatthi, bhikkhus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, a bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. Suppose there was a beetle, a dung eater, stuffed with dung, full of dung, and in front of her was a large dunghill. Because of this, she would despise the other dung beetles, thinking, I am a dung eater, stuffed with dung, full of dung, and in front of me there is a large dunghill. So too, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu here whose mind is overcome and obsessed by gain, honor, and praise, dresses in the morning, and taking bowl and robes, enters a village or town for alms. There he would eat as much as he wants, he would be invited for the next day's meal, and his alms food would be plentiful. When he goes back to the monastery, he boasts before a group of bhikkhus, I have eaten as much as I want, I have been invited for tomorrow's meal, and my alms food is plentiful. I am one who gains robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicinal requisites, but these other bhikkhus have little merit and influence. They do not gain robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicinal requisites. Thus, because his mind is overcome and obsessed by gain, honor, and praise, he despises the other well-behaved bhikkhus. This will lead to the harm and suffering of this senseless person for a long time. So dreadful, bhikkhus, are gain, honor, and praise, so bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves. We will abandon the arisen gain, honor, and praise, and we will not let the arisen gain, honor, and praise persist, obsessing our minds. Thus you should train yourselves. Continuing on to number 10. At Savatthi, bhikkhus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. Bhikkhus, I see some person here whose mind is overcome and obsessed by honor, with the breakup of the body, after death, reborn in a state of misery, in a bad destination, in the netherworld, in hell. Then I see some person here whose mind is overcome and obsessed by lack of honor, with the breakup of the body after death, reborn in a state of misery, in a bad destination, in the netherworld, in hell. Then I see some person here whose mind is overcome and obsessed by both honor and lack of honor, with the breakup of the body after death, reborn in a state of misery, in a bad destination, in the netherworld, in hell. So dreadful, bhikkhus, are gain, honor, and praise, so bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves. We will abandon the arisen gain, honor, and praise, and we will not let the arisen gain, honor, and praise persist, obsessing our minds. Thus you should train yourselves. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One, the teacher, further said this. Whether he is showered with honor, shown dishonor, or offered both, his concentration does not vacillate as he dwells in the measureless state. When he meditates with persistence and insight seer of subtle view, delighting in the destruction of clinging, they call him truly a superior person. Okay, and this is number 23, only son. At Savatthi, bhikkhus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. A faithful female lay follower, rightly imploring her only son, dear and beloved, might implore him like this: Dear, you should become like Chitta the householder and Hataka of Alawaka, for this is the standard and criterion for my male disciples who are lay followers, that is, Chitta the householder and Hataka of Alawaka. But if, dear, you go forth from the household life into homelessness, you should become like Sariputta and Moggallana, for this is the standard and criterion for my male disciples who are bhikkhus, that is, Sariputta and Moggallana. While, dear, you are a trainee, one who has not yet reached his mind's ideal, may gain, honor, and praise not come upon you. Bhikkhus, if gain, honor, and praise come upon a bhikkhu while he is a trainee, one who has not yet reached his mind's ideal, this is an obstacle for him. So dreadful bhikkhus are gain, honor, and praise, so bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. And then the next one is only daughter. At Savatthi, bhikkhus, dreadful are gain, honor, and praise, bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. A faithful female lay follower, rightly imploring her only daughter, dear and beloved, might implore her like this: Dear, you should become like Kujutara, the lay follower, and Velukandikya, Nanda's mother. For this is the standard and criterion for my female lay disciples who are lay followers, that is, Kujutara, the lay follower, and Velukandikya, Nanda's mother. But if, dear, you go forth from the household life into homelessness, you should become like the bhikkhunis, Kema and Upalawana, for this is the standard and criterion for my female disciples who are bhikkhunis, that is, Kema and Upalawana. While, dear, you are a trainee, one who has not yet reached her mind's ideal, may gain, honor, and praise not come upon you. Bhikkhus, if gain, honor, and praise come upon a bhikkhuni while she is still a trainee, one who has not yet reached her mind's ideal, this is an obstacle for her. So dreadful bhikkhus are gain, honor, and praise, so bitter, vile, obstructive to achieving the unsurpassed security from bondage. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus: We will abandon the arisen gain, honor, and praise, and we will not let the arisen gain, honor, and praise persist, obsessing our minds. Thus you should train yourselves. And now to turn to the positive. This is the Majjhima Nikaya, number 31, Culagosinga Sutta, the shorter discourse in Gosinga. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Nadika in the brick house. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbila were living at the park of the Gosinga Sala Tree Wood. Then when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and went to the park of the Gosinga Sala Tree Wood. The park keeper saw the Blessed One coming in the distance and told him, "Do not enter this park, recluse. There are 3 clansmen here seeking their own good. Do not disturb them." The Venerable Anuruddha heard the park keeper speaking to the Blessed One and told him, "Friend park keeper, do not keep the Blessed One out. It is our teacher, the Blessed One, who has come." Then the Venerable Anuruddha went to the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbila and said, "Come out, Venerable Sirs, come out. Our teacher, the Blessed One, has come." Then all 3 went to meet the Blessed One. One took his bowl and outer robe, one prepared a seat, and one set out water for washing the feet. The Blessed One sat down on the seat made ready and washed his feet. Then those 3 venerable ones paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. When they were seated, the Blessed One said to them, I hope you are all keeping well, Anuruddha. I hope you are all comfortable. I hope you are not having any trouble getting alms food. We are keeping well, Blessed One. We are comfortable, and we are not having any trouble getting alms food. I hope, Anuruddha, that you are all living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. Surely, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. But Anuruddha, how do you live thus? Venerable Sir, as to that I think thus. It is a gain for me, it is a great gain for me, that I am living with such companions in the holy life. I maintain bodily acts of loving kindness towards those venerable ones, both openly and privately. I maintain verbal acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I maintain mental acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I consider, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these venerable ones wish to do? Then I set aside what I wish to do and do what these venerable ones wish to do. We are different in body, Venerable Sir, but one in mind. The Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kambila each spoke likewise, adding, That is how, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. Good, Anuruddha. I hope that you all abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. Surely, Venerable Sir, we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. But Anuruddha, how do you abide thus? Venerable Sir, as to that, whichever of us returns first from the village with alms food, prepares the seats, sets out the water for drinking and for washing, and puts the refuse bucket in its place. Whichever of us returns last, eats any food left over, if he wishes, otherwise he throws it away where there is no greenery or drops it into water where there is no life. He puts away the seats and the water for drinking and for washing. He puts away the refuse bucket after washing it, and he sweeps out the refectory. Whoever notices that the pots of water for drinking, washing, or the latrine are low or empty takes care of them. If they are too heavy for him, he calls someone else by a signal of the hand, and they move it by joining hands. But because of this, we do not break out into speech. But every 5 days we sit together all night discussing the Dhamma. That is how we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. Good, Anuruddha. But while you abide thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, have you attained any superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, we enter upon and abide in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. Venerable Sir, this is the superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which we have attained while abiding, diligent, ardent, and resolute. Good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, we enter upon and abide in the second jhana. With the fading away as well of rapture, we enter upon and abide in the third jhana. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, we enter upon and abide in the fourth jhana. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. Good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, with this complete surmounting of perceptions of form, with the disappearance of perceptions of sensory impact, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, we enter upon and abide in the base of infinite space, Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. Good, Anuruddha, but is there any other superhuman state which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, by completely surmounting the base of infinite space, aware that consciousness is infinite, we enter upon and abide in the base of infinite consciousness. By completely surmounting the base of infinite consciousness, aware that there is nothing, we enter upon and abide in the base of nothingness. By completely surmounting the base of nothingness, we enter upon and abide in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. Good, Anuruddha, but is there any other superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, by completely surmounting the base of neither perception nor non-perception, we enter upon and abide in the cessation of perception and feeling, and our taints are destroyed by our seeing with wisdom. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. And Venerable Sir, we do not see any other comfortable abiding higher or more sublime than this one. Good, Anuruddha. There is no other comfortable abiding higher or more sublime than that one. Then when the Blessed One had instructed, urged, roused, and gladdened the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kabila with a talk on the Dhamma, he rose from his seat and departed. After they had accompanied the Blessed One a little way and turned back, the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kabila asked the Venerable Anuruddha, "Have we ever reported to the Venerable Anuruddha that we have obtained those abidings and attainments that the Venerable Anuruddha, in the Blessed One's presence, ascribed to us up to the destruction of the taints? The Venerable Ones have never reported to me that they have obtained those abidings and attainments. Yet by encompassing the Venerable One's minds with my own mind, I know that they have obtained those abidings and attainments, and deities have also reported to me. These Venerable Ones have obtained those abidings and attainments." Then I declared it when directly questioned by the Blessed One. Then the spirit Diga Parajana went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he stood at one side and said, "It is a gain for the Vajjayans, Venerable Sir, a great gain for the Vajjayan people, that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kabila." On hearing the explanation of the spirit Diga Parajana, the earth gods proclaimed, It is a gain for the Vajjayans, a great gain for the Vajjayan people, that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kabila. On hearing the explanation of the earth gods, the gods of the heaven of the four great kings, the gods of the heaven of the 33, the Yama gods, the gods of the Tusita heaven, the gods who delight in creating, the gods who wield power over others' creations, the gods of Brahma's retinue exclaimed, "It is a gain for the Vajjayans, a great gain for the Vajjayan people, that the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kabila." Thus at that instant, at that moment, those Venerable Ones were known as far as the Brahma world.
Question. Do you have any thoughts on what happens, like, if you have or advice on dealing with, like, you yourself might feel okay, but like you feel pressure from outside, like for example, like you go visit relatives or something, and you feel that emotional pressure from outside to be a somebody.
I mean, that's exactly why the Buddha spoke the latter two suttas that I read, because it's the people, oftentimes our family doesn't, and family and former friends don't really have any conception of, they don't appreciate what we're here for. And so on the other hand, if you say, give a talk or become an abbot, they can get excited because they understand those things. That's what it, worldly success, worldly influence. In terms of, actually I don't have much experience dealing with that, because my family is mostly pretty understanding. But does any other thoughts?
I know that Robert came earlier last year and was like, "Oh, you're an abbot now. You have to start your YouTube subscriber count, get that going, and try to get as many subscribers as possible."
I agree.
Gotta get your channel going.
Yeah, and how many people come up probably to you as well as to me, in the past 6 months and said, "Oh, congratulations! You've got a promotion." I'll look at it that way. Yeah, it's smile and yeah, it depends on who. If it's family, I can sort of suggest that it's not particularly, don't have that same kind of standard or aspiration. But other times, just kind of smile.
I think the Buddha's reflection was, the purport of those suttas was basically, he presents it in the ideal. If your parent, basically your parents don't, most of the time, I imagine most of his bhikkhus didn't have parents like that. And so he's presenting, this is the ideal parents, but if your parents fall short of this, well, it's no surprise, but you have to remember, okay, yep, Mom, and you don't have to tell her, but Mom, I'm afraid you don't really know what's good for me. That's just...
It might go very well.
Not my experience, but a parent who's an arahant whose parent fell short was Sariputta, whose mother thought he was a religious fanatic until Mahabrahma was bowing to him on his deathbed, and she was like, "Oh, who is this?" "That's Mahabrahma."
Ajahn has a younger brother who I'm sure has some understanding of Buddhism, and yet he has no interest at all in Ajahn personally. And when he tagged along with Ajahn years ago here, he was only coming so that he could then go to the casinos in Las Vegas.
I remember that. It's in Anadarko. Ajahn couldn't stay longer than a day because his brother wanted to go to Las Vegas.
And Ajahn the reaction just like, yeah, this is my
It's interesting also, like Ajahn Kaccana tells stories. Like here, obviously, and in Thailand, in this world, he's such a big deal. He tells these funny stories about going to like family reunions in Canada. Most people could just like care less. He's like sitting there on the side eating chips, and it's just gives you such a window into like the non-reality of status and position and how it's just all fabricated. And we obviously hold Ajahn Kaccana in high esteem, but yeah, it's another creator.
It's a different world.
also goes the other way, because when my brother died, they had the funeral, and he was very involved in the Catholic Church. There's something called the Knights of Columbus, and they do a lot of service. And my brother was very understated himself, and I was actually, they were there, and the number of people that expressed their gratitude and love for him, for all that he offered, I just didn't see it coming, because I just didn't see that. I didn't have a part in that, part of his love. So I'm sure there's a lot of things we miss about our family also.
Ajahn Kaccana told a story once of going back home. One of his brothers, Ajahn Kaccana, was walking up some steps or something and kind of like tripped on one of the steps. And his brother was like, mindful Kaccana. They can just get you in a way that nobody else can.
There's also, sort of speaking to what Ajahn Kaccana, Ajahn Thitapanno were talking about, like going home and interacting with your family and being somebody. I think, for myself, just out of compassion, out of friendliness, out of love, out of gratitude, with old friends, with family, there seems to be an element, or even general public, an element of just sort of, not playing along exactly, but just sort of like, out of compassion, just kind of like, not like, okay, let's have a beer together, but, I'm not sure how to articulate this exactly, but, yeah, playing along, out of going with it. I'm not sure how to articulate this.
Like just trying to be there for you in whatever way they...
Yeah, if it's kind of like being, in the same way that like a great teacher would be somebody. Like Ajahn Mahabua, Ajahn Chah, they're not, clearly there's no one, they're not making self, but they're being a self out of compassion for the rest of us. They're engaging in conventions and so in a very, very minor way. Then perhaps us, when we go home, I don't know. I'm not sure if that speaks to at all what your question was, Ajahn Thitapanno, but it seems to me, as opposed to just like a real sort of hard line of, I don't know, I'm not going to be somebody, I'm not going to, sort of holding it too tightly, I guess. I guess that in a roundabout way, hopefully, I'm saying something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, much of it is watching where it's coming from. Is it your own heart that's moving? Is it that, am I doing this for me? Because, that's where the catch is that if it's me trying to impress, me, I've really gone back, and once I wrote into my college, to sort of my college bulletin, they have a, just a list of things that, what people are doing, class notes, class of so and such, this person's doing this. And I once wrote in, and then, I pondered, I've gone back and forth about whether to update people. Oh yeah, 10 years as a bhikkhu. And so far I haven't. It's just feeling, and I don't know if I will or I won't, but a lot of it is watching what the story is I'm telling myself. Why would I want to do that? It might benefit people, might not.
In some ways it can be useful too, like being with parents, bringing up the old conditioning and the old emotions, and like they might see, my parents might know things about me I don't even know about myself. I might, if I was to say something like, actually, you guys don't know what's best for me, they'll probably think, like, wait, yeah, he hasn't changed at all. That's what you were saying when you were 10 or whatever.
a somewhat humorous note, going back to the casinos and Las Vegas. Recently, I believe, a Canadian Buddhist, Tibetan, I believe, he translates Sanskrit texts. He won $660,000, I believe, at the gambling table. And he shocked everybody by giving it away. And he said that giving it away was a Buddhist concept. But then he was sort of justifying his desire to gamble by giving money away.
I find the description of the enlightened being was really beautiful. The fact that they still, even though all of them had attained, that they still spoke Dhamma with each other just every 5 days, that the Buddha would still exhort them, that they still practiced as they were. It casts a whole new light again on the idea of the goal and the path, when you see that even those who've attained the goal, even though they don't speak about it, if anything, it just makes them more dedicated to the life. It's not just a means to an end, it's also just a beautiful abiding. And I found the description really, really gorgeous, very moving, how they live.
I don't know how many times, it's not so often, there aren't so many things in the suttas which resound through the Deva realms like that. I mean, Kondanyo's the Buddha teaching Kondanyo is the most famous, and I think there's at least 2 or 3 others, but this is one of them, and it's worthy of note what those are.
And obviously the relationship to the topic at hand, the fact that Anuruddha knew the minds of the others but never said anything to them, and that he wasn't like boasting, oh, I know, you're an arahant, and you're an arahant too, it's just sort of like, because at the very end they were asking him, oh, how did you know that? Oh, well, I just, read your minds.
The reflection on how many times the resounding happens is interesting, because you have the Buddha's enlightenment, and then you have Kondanyo's awakening to Sotapanna, which could be said to be like this pointer to the Dhamma being, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And then I know we usually take the Wadipatimokkha as sort of the Sangha, but it seems like maybe each of those like the Brahma realms announcing to each other could be taken as markers for those points of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And if that's the case, then this might be the marker for like the Sangha, like what a perfect Sangha dwelling together could be. It's a huge extrapolation, but it's just kind of interesting that the other 2 I can remember could be associated with the Buddha and the Dhamma, whereas this one could be like the perfect Sangha kind of.
Yeah, there's not many places where it goes up through the realms.